Yo,
Hey, Thomas, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm not feeling super hot, but I'm ready to do this. I think it's going to be enjoyable. All right, we got Scott. All right, cool. I was showing up early too because I didn't want to be. Scott, the mute button's in the bottom center of the page. Well, that meant technical difficulties. See if I can type it in chat here real quick. Oh, there we go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I
Yes,
can.
I can.
Okay, can you see me as well?
I can.
I can.
Okay, how do I get, I've never used this program before. How do I get back to you?
In terms of
In terms
seeing me,
of
Yeah.
I don't know. It should be at the. Do you just see yourself at the
yourself.
top?
Oh, now I see you again. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How you doing,
How you
man?
doing?
I'm good. I'm sorry to hear you're not feeling too great.
Um,
Um,
I've got bipolar, and some days are good and some days are bad, man. I'm
I hear you.
sure
I
you know all
totally hear
about that
you.
kind of stuff. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
but I've been waiting on this for 2 weeks, man. I'm really excited to have you on.
Aw.
My name's Thomas, by the way. I've been
Hey Thomas.
obsessed with. Yeah, nice. Would you rather me call you Scott or Dr. Kaufman? Which is better for you?
You can call me SBK.
SPK. All right, that's what
Yeah.
I'm doing
And
then.
is it possible, hey, is it possible to change the title of this talk to a conversation on intelligence with Scott Barry Kaufman? Because I go by my
Yes,
three names.
yes, I can do that right as the show is ended. I'll make sure that there's a correction, and people in the future will be able to see Scott
Oh,
Barry
great.
Kaufman. Yeah,
Okay, great.
absolutely. Let me make a note of that actually, real
Okay.
quick. Change to Scott Barry. Yeah, because that's how you're. That's I'm sure you know that's how you're referenced on Wikipedia. So I think that's good, so that people know that it's exactly
Yeah.
you. I'm
Yeah.
just out of respect, I'm gonna call you Dr. Kaufman. Just for, I mean, I
Sure.
may say
Yeah.
SPK, but just for, Um, I've been obsessed with the cognitive sciences and cognitive psychology, neuroscience, neuropsychology, um, psychiatry, cognitive psychology, clinical psychology, AI, everything that has to do with that. I'm just obsessed with intelligence. So I was super happy that I got to have you as a guest. And guys, everybody listening in the future or right now, Dr. Kaufman has the psychology podcast on YouTube, and it is wonderful. I've watched at least a few of his videos, two or three of them, and they're fantastic. Um, please go and subscribe to his channel, and please go and listen to his videos because they're very scientifically rigorous and informational, and he's a cool ass guy. So, um, I don't know if you want to, you know, I can dive right into the questions that I have, but this is super informal. You know what I mean? It's just us here
Oh,
chilling. We're
cool.
just, yeah, it's real informal here. You can say whatever you want to. You can whatever you want to do. I guess we can dive in a little bit to it. So you talked about on some of your videos how you had this first spark when you were younger about studying intelligence. You want to talk about the basis of that?
Oh man, well, when I was a kid, I was diagnosed with an auditory learning disability that made it really hard for me to process things, and yeah, everyone thought I was really dumb.
Mm,
I thought I was dumb. I believed them.
wow.
Um, and I really went into this inner world of fantasy, and I create all these like dreams in my head of me being like the champion like sports player and like all this crazy, I was the king in my own head. But yeah, just as a kid and just growing up with that learning disability, I really saw a lot of greater potential around people that even my friends, in the special ed class, were all considered trouble kids, but
Mm,
I thought there was a lot more potential than anyone was seeing in them, and yeah, like the roots of what I study now really were laid when I was a kid in really an unjust education system that
yeah,
hasn't changed much over the years, unfortunately.
yeah. I can kind of relate to you because when I was a kid, I was, full obsessive, full ADHD, was on Adderall and some other, I think, SSRI or something. And, my childhood was a haze, but I remember being obsessed with why people didn't accept different types of intelligence. I didn't think about it quite that way until I was like 17, 18. But I mean, it was definitely, sometimes I felt stupid too. You know what I mean? Because I couldn't learn exactly, and mental health has come a long way, and how the kids are treated is the most important. And my high school education was shit. I'm an autodidact, so I have to go that route. But anyway, so that's who you are, that's who we are.
When did your bipolar? Wait, can we talk about your specifics?
Absolutely, yes,
Okay.
everything. I'm an open book, brother. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, me too. Like when did it show itself most? Like ever since you can remember, pretty much.
24 was when it really started happening seriously.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it was adult set. I mean, yes, I had behavioral issues. I didn't have conduct disorder, you know what I mean? But I had
Yeah,
behavioral issues, emotional regulation problems.
yeah,
Had serious ADHD. I mean, my education was only good because of my mother. And then in
yeah,
high school, I just winged everything. I made A's and B's just because the education system at that time in the late 90s and early 2000s, when I was there in a small town with only 160 people in the it was just bad education. That's all it boils
damn,
down to.
damn. How old are you now?
I'm 37.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought maybe you're still in your 20s,
No,
but
no, no,
yeah,
no. A little bit older than that. I'm getting old. A lot of our friends here on this server are in their 20s, and they're just starting their journey on the
yeah,
philosophy of mind and psychology and intelligence and consciousness and all of this stuff. And I find that a beautiful thing. I think it's awesome. I think the journey is just more fun. I find more fun in learn. I love teaching, but I find more fun in learning than I do anything. And I think, I'm sure you probably feel the same.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear from people on this call how they define intelligence. And
Yeah. Here's the thing. A lot of people, this is still a beta program, so it's not completely released to the public just yet. We do
yeah,
have callers. There probably will be callers when I get done talking
oh,
with you,
nice.
for 50 minutes. Oh, by the way, how long do we have you?
I'd like to leave by 6 p.m. my time. So
Where are you at?
5:05.
Okay,
So
sure. Sure. We'll do an hour and 45 minutes. That sounds good.
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, cool. Hopefully, we can get some callers in here. We have our whole team of Pangburn philosophers that hopefully will call in as it goes along. I've also got my friend speaker here, Tart Vader. He is an extraordinary philosopher with a beautiful mind, and he's a really cool person. So we'll get his takes here in just a little bit.
So
But
we'll talk for like what 45 minutes and do a 15-minute call in, or what
yeah,
do you
well,
think?
it's not so structured like that. I mean, if somebody wanted to call in right now
Oh,
and it
right
was
now they can. I got you.
yeah, if
Oh,
it
I
was a
got you.
pertinent if it was a pertinent question on topic of what we want to talk about with intelligence and everything, I don't mind that. But I have
That's
I have made a point to make a lot of questions and topics to talk about with you, and
cool.
I just wanted to go over those because I'm selfish and I want to
Oh
get
no, that's cool.
explanations.
Yeah, no, awesome, awesome,
So
cool.
we'll just did you what's that now?
No, that's awesome. No,
Yeah,
I'm so honored. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I went over your videos, and I'm not going to dissect everything, but you talked
Okay.
about how, of course, different cultures have defined intelligence in many different ways, right? So
Yeah.
many different ways. Um, could you give a good juxtaposition between two cultures that are antithetical in terms of how they view intelligence? Have you gone that far into it?
Oh yeah. Well, there's the multiple intelligence theories like Howard Gardner's theory that argues there's like 7 different types of intelligences, from
Right,
musical to bodily kinesthetic.
right.
Woo! Are you?
existential,
I can do that.
spatial.
If I can do that, does that make me intelligent?
No, like you said on that actually, that the only ones that didn't correlate directly to the G factor were intrapersonal, musical, and bodily kinesthetic, right?
Oh, you listened to my episode?
The entire thing.
Wow, I'm honored. I'm
Yep.
honored.
So a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
this is going to come from that episode, right?
Right on, right on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I follow all
that's
your stuff, man. I'm going to watch all your new videos. I can't wait.
that's what's up. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, yeah. The visual spatial. People who tend to be good at reasoning, tend to be good at reasoning, kind of regardless of the content of the reasoning. They're just good
Right.
reasoners. They're really quick at. They're really quick, and they're really. Although quickness is not necessarily correlated with depth of thought, and that's important too. Like a lot of people can really get through all the material in school,
Hey,
but their
so
thinking
sorry
is
to
not
interrupt, Scott.
incredibly
If you
deep.
Oh,
could,
hang on one second. I'm so sorry to interrupt
hey,
you. It
Scott.
seems as though there's some audio bug.
Yeah,
Let's
if you could
see.
mute and then unmute Scott. Travis is asking that you mute and unmute really quickly and see if that fixes the auto glitch.
Did that fix the audio glitch or no?
Oh yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Seems so.
Seems so.
Okay. You hear a
Sorry
difference
about
now?
that.
Sorry about that.
You
Yes,
hear a
please go
difference?
on with what you were saying.
What you were saying. You sound great now. Great now. You're perfect.
Okay. Okay. I'm perfect, just the way I am. Yeah. And what was I saying? What was I saying?
Oh, what were we talking about? We were talking about G factor and Howard Gardner's three
Oh
types that
yeah.
aren't correlated to G factor. Yeah,
Yeah. People have different notions of what intelligence means, and within the field, people kind of debate with each other whether or not there's such a thing that means to be generally smart. It does seem like some people are generally good at what's called fluid reasoning. They're able to see patterns. They're able to see analogies quickly. And
yeah.
that is a form of
Fluid and
intelligence.
crystallized intelligence. Is that
Yeah,
similar to what
yeah,
you're talking about?
man. Yeah,
Okay.
brother. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Crystallized intelligence is having a knowledge and
Right.
and dare I say wisdom to some degree that knowledge
Sure.
can bring us. But fluid and reasoning is without knowledge. How can you catch on? Can you pick things up? And that's the kind of intelligence we really emphasize a lot in schools. But we don't really emphasize creative intelligence that much. In fact, if you got in creative intelligence, you will be sent to detention. Let's be honest. So you got too
You
much
will.
creative.
I was.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah, and me too. If you think outside the box, if you, um, uh, you're really constantly challenging the teacher and coming up with, and you're like, yeah, I don't think that this is the way things are, is good. Then
Yep.
there's all sorts of problems with that. So, yeah. So that's multiple intelligences. And then there's like some Robert Sternberg, my advisor, argued there's practical intelligence.
Yeah.
Practical.
Let's get to that real quick. He talked about successful intelligence, right? His book, Creative, Practical, and Analytical, the theory of successful intelligence. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Is my audio still choppy?
No, is mine.
No, you sound great. I just was looking at the comments. Um,
That's kind of past. They're talking about what Tart had to say a minute ago. I think you're good. I haven't
uh,
had any issues.
thanks, Peter Box. Thanks, Peter Box.
Peter is
Musician.
our best friend. He's a good man.
What does he play?
His music. He is a musician and he plays the accordion, and he is absolutely fantastic at it.
Wow,
He is a really good accordion player.
that's
Yeah,
badass. I always
yeah.
loved the accordion. I always loved the accordion growing up.
He's always playing gigs, man. He's just constantly playing gigs with these bands and stuff. He's a fantastic musician, but like you talk about, that can't be directly absolved into the G factor, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the question: do we want to call these things? Do we want to call musical ability intelligence?
Mm.
Or is it? Do you think it's possible to be really talented at basketball, but to be dumb in general?
Yeah, I mean, walk off the side of a cliff because you're chewing gum and not thinking about it, stupid. Yeah, maybe so. Yeah,
Yeah. So, that's the sort of burning questions I have,
mine too.
uh and I think that there really is a type of intelligence that I call self-actualizing intelligence that
Yeah,
we probably
get into your idea of it. I'm more
you want to
interested
jump
in
into
that than other
jump
people's.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Good, good. Let's jump right into mine.
Yeah,
Yeah. I try to give other people credit, but yeah, I have my own theory that I think's the best. My theory really takes into account the fact that life. Not everyone wants to compete each other in the cognitive Olympics. Like we treat IQ like it's the most important thing in school, and for most of us, I would say for virtually all of us, what we really care about is that we're self-actualizing our own unique potential, and that our own unique capabilities are coming out in a way that makes us unique, not in a way that we're competing with each other. In fact, getting caught in that rut where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not as good as that person or I'm not good as that person, really is a big way to detract from our potential and what we're capable of
I
becoming.
agree. I agree.
So, so I think there needs to be a recognition that self-actualizing intelligence, which is the capability to to self-actualize. That's as simple as that, you know.
Make an
And
individual of oneself. Is that what you mean? Just accept the introspective self kind of thing, the intrapersonal intelligence.
well, we all have amazing creative potential, and I think being able to tap into that creative potential and generate something that is uniquely ours and gives and shows our human existence what we're capable of is really what we're kind of all after. And meaning, we're after some deep meaning, and which creativity often gives us is that meaning. And I just think we're losing the point of intelligence when we treat it like fluid reasoning is the only thing that is matters, or is the most important thing that matters in a human. I just feel like for most people that's not the thing that they care about the most.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Mm.
It's kind of like how the DSM-5 is going to go to the DSM-6 instead of like these traits that we put people under, and do they have this trait? Do they have this trait? Do they have this trait? It's going to be
Yeah.
more focused on like patterns of behavior and like the correlations between those patterns. I think that's really awesome. It's just a tangential point to what you were talking about, but um, what about like, I think you're. Did you want to delve more deeply into your ideas? Because I'll listen to you for an hour on that.
No, no. Let's riff. Let's riff.
Let's
I'm
riff a little bit.
listening.
Okay, so let's
Yeah.
talk about like how intelligence is measured. The
The audio bug is
psychometrics.
back. If we could get that fixed
Oh, the
first.
audio noise
Sorry,
is
Travis.
back.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I didn't
Scott. If
hear
you
it
could
from
try
you.
muting and unmuting. Travis is asking that we get that
Let,
fixed,
let,
so we can go back into it.
This program is just wacky, man. It's a wacky program.
let's try something else. Let's try something else. Let me put some headphones on.
Okay.
All right. Hey, can you hear me?
It's still doing it a little bit, but I
It's
mean, I
still.
don't have a
It's
problem with it.
still.
But if other people in the future will, that's I guess what we're worried
It's
about.
still happening. It's
Yeah, I still hear it.
Dang, man. Um,
okay. Is
you
this
can try the
better?
mute unmute thing again if you want to.
I did. I just did.
Okay, that fixed it. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
why this keeps. We always have some kind of technical difficulty when we do this show. It's always something like that.
It's okay.
That's okay. Sounds
Um.
good now.
Yeah.
So we were
So
riffing
yeah, tell me what your thoughts are. Yeah, tell me your thoughts.
psychometrics, how we would measure it. Oh God, I mean, any IQ test that I can think about is not taking all of general intelligence into account. I mean,
Yeah.
You mentioned a bunch of them on your video, and I don't remember every name of all the different IQ tests, but if they do well in one thing, doesn't the more efficient people do well in all aspects in most IQ tests? Is that
There's
how it
a
works?
tendency for that to happen, but I think we also need to recognize that these correlations are not these are they're not perfect, and all of us have jagged profiles. I mean, even the quote gifted kids, um, they have more jagged profiles than anyone else, where they can be very sharp, high in something, and very low in something else. And we all our profiles of our abilities within each of us is very jagged. As my friend Todd Rose talks about, it's really important to recognize that there's no such thing as average.
No, I don't think so either.
It doesn't exist.
Um,
Doesn't exist.
my brother, and this is a tangent. My brother could I don't think he has the capability of understanding Aristotelian logic. However, he is so good at video games and like spatial and hand-eye coordination and everything that it's impressive. You know what I mean? Just to
Mm-hmm.
watch him play and his reaction times and his ability to strategize and things like that. So I mean, that comes that whole old argument of book smart, street smart kind of thing, that old colloquial phrasing. Um, so let's see. What test would be satisfactory for like a holistic solution? You think? Do you think that any of the psychometrics that we have are going to be useful?
Good question. I think that the IQ testing can be valuable under certain circumstances when you're a trained psychologist, and you're using those tests in ways to help figure out where someone's cognitive difficulties may lie, and how to help them with that. It can be very valuable, but we often lose sight of the point of cognitive testing, and we limit people's potential as opposed to use that information to help them. I mean, as long as it's being used to help people, I'm down, but it's not tends that doesn't tend to be how we use that information, and that is a
No, it
real
tends to be a
shame.
derogatory connotation.
Yeah, it's a real shame. It's like, oh, it's usually used in a comparative way. Like, oh, this person has a higher score than this person, therefore this person is more capable, in life. And I think the problem is with the in life thing. Um, that's that's I don't think that's how we should be looking at the situation.
I think it's much more broad and gradient, like on a spectrum kind of
Yes.
scale, like a bell curve, kind of thing. Where do you want to find the averages based upon your hermeneutics, your interpretational structure? Uh, so,
Yes.
not we know that not all IQ tests measure general intelligence very well. They can measure like certain things, abstraction, logical reasoning, pattern
Mm.
recognition, problem solving, critical thinking skills, things like that, right? Like most people, when I hear people talk about intelligence quotient, I hear intellectual horsepower.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
right. That's right. It's we treat it like it's like the cognitive Olympics, right? It's
Yes.
like not everyone in school wants to compete on their intelligence. It's just not. It's ridiculous how why we treat that schools like that.
You talked and you talked about the fluid reasoning that's adaptable. Psychologists call it that, and it's the analogical reasoning. You seem to find an important, or a lot of people seem to find an importance in analogical reasoning being the high end factor.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's
Um,
up with that?
Um, well, I think it's okay to recognize that at the group level there exist these correlations. People who do tend to do well on some kind of these cognitive reasoning items do tend to do well in others, and there are some things in common. But I think that's just the level of analysis that we don't need to focus on among people. I mean, that exists scientifically, it exists, but I think we put way too much attention on that level. Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Is Travis Pangburn here
He is.
as well?
He's in the speakers. I mean, not the speakers, the listeners.
That's awesome. I wanted to say hi
He's
to him.
usually writing on his book a lot of times, if I were to guess. Yes.
What's he working on? What's his book?
He's calling in. He's calling in.
He's calling in. All right. Well, let's get
Yeah,
Travis
let's
up
talk.
here.
Let's talk.
Travis, come on up. Come on up, sucker. You want to be on video?
We can't hear you if you're speaking, Travis.
I invited him to speak, but I don't know if he's gonna see what he does. Travis, you there? Oh, this program is
Talk to
very
Travis.
interesting.
Art thou there?
There it is.
Hello?
He's in the speakers. Let's see if he's there.
Hello?
There it
Can
is.
anyone hear?
Yo.
Earth to Scott and Thomas. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now,
can
I
hear.
have the audio bug? That's the big question.
No, you don't.
Oh, okay.
This
good.
program's a little buggy.
Yeah, it's a little
buggy.
buggy. It's in beta, so we're, plugging along with it. We have about 400 episodes on here. Hopefully, that's a good enough sample size to.
Wow.
But Scott, thanks for joining us today. This is great.
Yeah, my pleasure. Where are you based?
I'm in Canada, Vancouver. Yeah.
Didn't you host a debate between my friends Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris?
Yeah,
point?
so 4-part series. That was a pretty insane time. Yeah, we did 2 events in Vancouver, and then we popped over to Dublin and London for the final 2 events. And yeah, Brett Weinstein was involved in the first 2, and Douglas Murray joined us for date 3 and 4. So, yeah.
That's right. Awesome. Yeah, Sam's a buddy of mine here in California, and we have
Cool.
dinner parties and stuff
Yeah, nice.
all the time.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
so let me know next time you're in town.
Yeah, for sure.
You too, Thomas. I'm not. I don't want to take away from Thomas at all here.
I'll tag along. I'll ride on the top of the. You can just tie me on the top of the car or whatever,
No. I feel like Thomas is the kind of cat I want to ride in my Ford Mustang with and blast rap music.
We'd do it. We would do it.
Oh, I would be so out of the loop on that. I'd be looking for my Rocky Horror Picture Show soundtrack CD, and I would force you guys to sit through that.
Yeah. Well,
And
that
I
would
would
be
stare at you
interesting.
the whole time with disdain.
So you guys are talking about intelligence quotient. I mean,
We're talking about the psychometrics of intelligence right
Right.
now, and how most of the many different theories of intelligence and things like that seem to point back to some kind of G factor. It seems to be, lots of tests in psychology are G loaded, as Dr. Kaufman says.
yeah, intellectual horsepower is kind of what I think would be like a colloquial way of putting how we are what we are currently measuring with intelligence quotient testing. I don't know if Scott agrees with that or not. But yeah, this idea, this more like philosophy of semantics idea of what should intelligence mean, and I think, if we can get over our own emotional knee-jerk reactions to when we start challenging labels and terms and start thinking about maybe it makes sense for us to say the intellectual genius of Beethoven, right? Even if we're only looking at his music, or the intellectual genius or the intelligence of Elton John. I'm wearing my Elton John tour shirt right now, right?
Nice.
So, what does it mean? I mean, I've been playing music my entire life. Since I was 3, I was plunking away on the piano and started picking up boogie woogie at 5, 6, right? Was what was going on when I was starting to catch on to music and starting to get into that kind of flow state where you could just, your mind isn't the same way that it is when you're going to purchase a coffee. Your mind is in this kind of state of whatever comes at me is cool, and I'm going to incorporate it into this next dialectic with the things that are being thrown at me musically, and if I'm playing with another musician or whatever. So
Well, interestingly enough, the flow state is correlated with IQ 0. I've
Isn't
written
that
article.
weird? The flow
I've
state.
read.
Yeah, I actually did a show on the flow state like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Nice. I love the flow
Yeah.
state. I teach
Yes.
it. I teach how to get into the flow state. I used to be a flow coach. That was my
I
job.
I always reduce it to mindfulness, meditation, and metacognition, but
Mm.
it could be more than that, I guess.
So how do you
No, I
teach
mean
that, Scott?
it's a big
That's
part of
really
it.
interesting to me. Like, how do you
Well,
teach getting into the flow state?
well, that's the $1 million question. If you could bottle it, or
Yeah.
press the button, you know. But a big part of flow coaching, it takes place not just in one session, but it takes place in a number of sessions, where you really try to clear all the cobwebs away from a person, all the other extraneous things that are getting in the way. It's more about getting rid of the things that are getting in the way of flow state. Flow is our natural state. So the more you
Yeah.
can take away that distraction, take away the mother calling, take away the nagging thought that you have to please your girlfriend, take away the thought, oh, did I write that paper that I don't even want to write and I've been procrastinating for 2 years? And then you just like spend more of your time creating a bubble around, even if it's like 2 hours a day. You're like, no, this is my flow time. So I really encourage people to pick their flow time during the
Yes.
day,
You know what's
where nobody can bother them.
yeah. You know
I
what?
I agree
Yeah.
big time. Is that like I use music and I use meditation to get into a flow state. I don't have like a sport or
Yes.
anything that's like physical that gets me into the flow. I used to do it with working out. I could really get into the flow state with my music and everything, and it was like I wasn't even there. It was just like an autonomic process. But uh,
Yes.
I
There,
thought that was really good. Go ahead, Travis.
yeah, I was gonna say that this reminds me. So I used to play these like boogie woogie, like Travie Lee Lewis instead of Jerry Lee Lewis piano gigs back in the day. And sometimes I would play these long, like 8-minute, 10-minute pieces where it was just I was soloing most of the time, and whatever comes out of my mind is what comes out on the piano. It's I'll start with my the in the bass hand. I got the CG and the CA going. Dun 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 dun. So I would start with that, and then eventually you would start getting this feeling as though, okay, that there's no longer start, middle, anticipating the end, things like this. We're just playing at this point. But one thing I thought of, Scott, when you said trying to let go of the mother, trying to let go of this, the other things that maybe impeding your ability to step into that flow state. I always felt like, yes, you disconnect from it to some degree, but the passion of it is still there. Like that, like whatever has happened to me in my experience. The flow state wasn't me releasing myself from my experience, whatever is happening. That stuff was still there, but it wasn't there in a way that was impeding the flow state. That just made me think of that, because if I got in a big argument with someone before I played a gig, it's not like that argument was in my head and it impeded my ability to get into
Good.
the flow state, but it definitely affected the passion of the music.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, for a lot of people, that would affect their flow state. Actually, anything that brings into the mind a self-critical aspect, or a sort of metacognitive, as Thomas said. That's a buzz killer of flow, metacognitive, where you're kind of standing on top of each other, standing on top of yourself, and trying to reflect on what you're doing. There are a lot of things we do in
Right.
life, from sex to aesthetic appreciation to musical appreciation to creating, where you want to be in it, you don't want to be above it.
If you wouldn't mind, Scott, just pressing your mute and unmute button, just because we got that audio bug back. Thank you. He might have signed off.
No,
He
he
exited. I
pressed
think he actually hung up or something.
Oopsies.
no, he might have just pressed the video button.
No, he's not on
No,
the.
he
He's not
dropped
in the
down to
speakers anymore.
callers, so you just got to
Oh,
invite him
damn.
back.
He accidentally
Okay.
hung up. He's in the caller queue.
Well,
Bring him back up, invite him to speak.
that'll clear
That'll
up the
do.
bug. That'll do.
Oh, hopefully, definitely so.
I don't even when I'm writing music and those sorts of things, because I'm a pianist myself. I don't even know that like that I'm actually having that much input. It's more intuitive than it is. Like I've dreamed entire piano pieces, woke up and knew how to play it, and I can't explain how did I dream this? And here I am playing it, and it's real. Like it makes no sense to me. But at the same time, I don't feel like I have that much like actual input from my conscious states. It's more intuitive to me. I don't know if anyone else has that sort of feeling, but that's the way I am about it.
Yeah, I think so too. Like that thing where you can have that disassociation from like driving home from somewhere at night, and you're just like, how did I don't remember that drive at all. Like I feel that same way about music sometimes. Yeah, welcome back, Scott.
Thank you.
No,
Yeah.
you had a very profound point before you left. Talking about
Yes.
metacognition. Yeah.
Very, very profound. Well, the thing is, I've been studying the neuroscience of this stuff, and if you look at different brain networks, it's actually interesting. The kind of brain network you have when you're in a mindful meditation state tends to be the exact opposite of the state of when you're in flow.
Yeah.
So that is interesting. Flow and mindfulness are actually kind of like opposites in a way.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Well, I'm
that's
glad.
cool.
I'm glad you can see that, because a lot of people in the field have been having trouble reconciling that seeming paradox.
Well, the flow state is more about completely letting go. Like there's nothing.
Yes.
It's like a gray zone, like this big. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And you're just
Correct.
completely in it. Whereas like metacognition and mindfulness and meditation are observing your thoughts and emotions, like meta. You know, and
Yes.
it's taking you out of that flow state. So it's just weird.
Exactly.
I'm kind of a weird person, so I can get into these flow states with music and stuff, and it all ends up if I'm analyzing it or if I'm just letting it hit me and I'm just in
Yes.
the waves. I mean, you know, metaphorically speaking, but yeah.
Yeah, you nailed that. You nailed it.
Some in the chat are asking, could you maybe define for us what mindfulness is, and then what
Oh,
flow state is, so that everyone has kind of a good grasp of what these things are, because
that's like
they're
someone
asking about
asked.
it.
Well, I appreciate the question. That's like asking me, what is intelligence? And I mean, all these things have rabbit holes. Every single one of those things have rabbit holes.
Yep.
You can go down. There's no agreed
Exactly.
Call me Alice. I'm ready to go down the hole with you.
Well, there is that
Tart,
Tart? Tart, that's Tart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Tart. We're definitely going to let Tart get in on this. I just wanted to ask you. I just wanted to go over a few
Bring
more
Tart
things.
over here. Bring Tart's video up
Tart,
here as
actually,
well.
yeah. Can you come up to video, or you don't have video
I don't have a
capability?
Bring the
webcam.
Pangburn
I
team
don't have a
on.
webcam.
Oh, okay. Well, Tart, if
Okay.
you had some questions, go ahead, bud.
Well, I guess
No, I
he
was
did
just
ask
saying
that
what was in
question.
the it was in the
Yeah.
chat. That's all I was saying.
Yeah.
Is people in the chat were asking questions.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I got you.
No,
I
I
got
got I understand the question, and I think that you have to first of all recognize there's no agreed upon definition of these things. I like to think of mindfulness as simply the act of becoming intimate with your mind. I've never quite put it that way before, but in a sort of detached way, detached intimacy. I love that paradox as well, right? Like where you are not identifying with the thoughts, but you are you're getting deeper and deeper insight into the nature of your mind and how your mind works, and you even put a little loving kindness into that as well. Like,
Oh,
oh
I so
Scott,
agree with that. Oh man.
yeah, like, oh Scott, like again, that loop is playing again. And then just like, like having love for that, and like, don't be so harsh on yourself that it's happening. Like, we all have our habits and our loops and our patterns.
Yeah.
And the first part to change is being aware of them. So I think that that kind of awareness is what mindfulness can
Accepting
be.
your flaws and your shadow and all these
Mm.
other metaphorical things inside the intrapersonal cognition world, or the imagination world, whatever you want to call it, the abstract
Mm.
forms of ourselves.
Mm. And then flow.
Um,
What is
the
flow?
flow.
What is flow? And nobody knows what flow is. No one can look. Honestly, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi hasn't been able to define it. My brother Steve Kotler, when I ask him to define flow, he evades the question. He runs the Flow Research Collective. He's my brother from another mother. But he avoids. He goes in this whole tangent. I'm like, you never answer. It's like, what is a woman? Answer the damn question. Okay, look.
Yeah, Scott. If you were forced to like put your money on it,
Yes.
or give your best bet, how would you describe flow if you had to?
Okay, because I did attempt something on the spot with mindfulness. Let's see if I could attempt something on the spot with flow. Well, I think it's a state of consciousness, and I would call it an altered state of consciousness because I don't think
Yeah,
it's our ordinary consciousness is not in
I
flow, and
agree.
I also don't think you'd want to be in flow 24/7. Be awkward, awkward.
You would not be
You
able
would
to
you would
multitask.
get
I mean,
run over
multitasking would.
by a
Yeah,
bus.
yeah.
But yeah. But I think it's an alter. Let's start with there. It's an altered state of consciousness, uh, state of consciousness where you uh, are completely in the moment and uninhibited by second order control neuroscience systems. So you're uninhibited by metacognitive reflection, self critical consciousness, and any other forms of consciousness that are putting the brakes on you creating and learning. That's, I guess, what I would say.
Good definition.
Yeah.
I do now see what you mean by those three things being separate from the flow state. That's a very poignant
Mm.
ideology. Um,
Mm.
so
We
you
don't
said
no
also
ideologies around here. No
no ideology.
ideologies.
Just yeah,
Ideology free zone.
I am not a dogmatic person. I'm a fallibilist. I don't believe anything absolutely. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I was just Travis or Tart. If you have questions, you can ask. But I've got a few more things I was
No,
going to cover.
I'm happy listening.
Sure.
Thomas is killing it.
Here's a simple one. You know, you said we change through our lives in terms of intelligence, and I'm sure that deals with neuroplasticity and everything. You know, the fact that correlations differ across lifespans. Um, you know, psychologists have expanded our understanding of intelligence. It goes beyond general intelligence. So, can we
Mhm.
talk a little bit about that? What would be beyond general intelligence, and how we change over time intellectually?
Oh wow. Well, personal growth is a broader construct than general intelligence. Pangburn just zapped out. um,
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
well, I don't know, but I hope his existence didn't just zap out. Yeah, I know. Um, yeah, so I view self transcendence as and personal growth and self transcendence are beyond general intelligence. You know, there are things that involve the whole person. There are things that are much bigger than one slice of us. I view intelligence as just one slice of us. A big part of what I've been trying to do in my work on self actualization is I'm into whole person actualization, right? Um, and bringing to harmony and integrating all different kinds of sides of yourself to have a to create a creative masterpiece of your existence. What
That's
would that
beautiful.
look
Yeah,
like? What would
yeah.
that look like? Yeah.
Well, I've spent so much time in my life because of bipolar in introspection and dealing with my
Mm,
intrapersonal innerverse that I
yeah.
have come to different conclusions about many things. You know, kind of swimming in the abyss of myself.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I really don't. What you're saying is beautiful, though. How you put it just a moment ago.
But
Um,
wait. I want to just double click on swimming in the abyss of yourself.
yeah,
I think that it is important to recognize that not all the kind of contents of our we call it the imagination brain network, which is creates meaning for us and creates a sense of future oriented. It also creates a sense of self and a narrative of ourself. Some forms of mindfulness can help us change our relationship to that, so that our narrative, so we don't swim so deeply in the sea of ourself, where we're identified with it in such a deep way. I think that would be really valuable for you is if you change the relationship to your default mode brain network or imagination brain network in a
yeah.
way that you are not so in it. It's good to have a little bit of a distance, so you can have that kind of loving kindness. Do you know what I mean?
I get out of that abyss with love and kindness. I kind of take the hand of the child inside of me and say, "It's
Yeah,
all okay. All of this self
yeah.
introspection, all of this getting lost, all of this letting go, it's okay." And my moral axioms are love and well being. So I
Mm,
base all of my decisions and everything off of that and kindness. So
Yeah,
that is what I've learned through my inner travels.
I just hope that you apply that to yourself as much as you apply that to others.
I do enjoy myself. There are some things I don't like about myself, of course, because we're
Mm,
human, but I do like who I am. I really do. And I wish that
good.
for everybody.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish
And
that
the
for
and the
everybody.
more that you like yourself, the more you'll be inclined to be accepting of others. We have found that over and over again in our research, that the more people score higher on self-acceptance, the more they tend to score higher on other acceptance. I mean, if you ever have you ever been to a Ku Klux Klan meeting?
I know friends who have been, but not me. Oh, real quick, hold that in
Yes.
your mind. People are
Yes.
telling me that you've got to unmute and mute again. Oh my God, I hate this program. The unmute button down there is just on the bottom left,
Okay.
like in the center there.
Yes. Are we
Okay, it
back?
fixed. Good
We're
job.
back. Who's Tubins?
Let's see.
Don't need no Tubins around here.
I'm trying to look at all these questions and stuff. Don't need no tubins around here. That was a bad joke. Sorry. Okay.
Anyway,
Who's
so
a tubin?
have you ever been to a Ku Klux Klan meeting?
No.
Well, they're pretty insecure.
Yeah.
They don't really love themselves.
No.
They love to
It
deal with
shows in their disgust for outgroups. It also
yes,
the whole
yes.
correlation between the less you are disgusted by things, the more your correlation to accept outgroups. So
Oh yes, yes, and interestingly enough, oxytocin, which researchers used to think was the love or the cuddle hormone, it's become quite clear it's really just the in-group love hormone.
it really is. Yeah, that's what I've
Yeah,
read too.
yeah, yeah.
I, I just don't understand. Like, eventually, we want everything in the in group. You know,
Yes.
every self in the in group. I mean, that's the goal. But I don't. Maybe that's too politically idealistic of a notion.
No, it's
Um,
not. It's not. Your
I hope
identity
not.
have a superordinate identity of human. You know,
Yeah,
the problem with the society we live in right now, with such a obsessive focus on what's your identity, you know, and that could be within anything from gender identity to racial identity to, well, I don't know, you can't change your racial identity yet. We haven't gone there, but someone tried. Rachel something tried, and that didn't go well for her. But religious identity, political identity. There's just so many different forms of identity, and we're living in a society where we're trying to force everyone to pick an identity, as opposed to hold a superordinate identity in our head,
yeah,
as our default.
yeah.
There's no superordinate identity in America right now, or
No,
Vancouver.
no, no.
Are
You're right about that.
you in Vancouver,
What
Thomas? Where are you?
I am actually in Alabama.
Oh my gosh!
what about the
Yeah.
although what about the identity of guns in the grand old USA? It seems like that is the uniting religion and force
Yeah,
in the
Travis.
United States.
Yeah, good point. Really good point.
Guns.
Yeah, there's something that feels very American, about, yeah, like, because it's freedoms, right? Like, uh, the idea that you're a real American is being able to free to do whatever you want. The problem is you have a lot of people that they take that freedom and then they act as though, well, whatever you do with that freedom therefore is good,
Mm.
because freedom is good, and that's not a
Yeah.
valid logical syllogism, as you know,
No.
Travis. You're a philosopher, and as you know too, Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I think that's just a testament to how important it is to have conversations about ethics publicly. I think government should
Absolutely.
invest in the conversations about ethics um, and including community engagement and family engagement to be involved. Because if people aren't talking about ethics and people are just kind of have this attitude of like, well, you keep what's good to you and I keep what's good to me, kind of this like dogmatic way of going about
Yeah.
I'm not going to be changing. Nothing will ever possibly change my mind about any of this. I see a lot of that just generally around the world, and I think it's a mistake. I think we all need to come fallibilistically to any of our ethical proclamations and start with my first maxim, which is that certainty is almost certainly unattainable. That's what I think, eradicating this idea that we need to be certain about things, or we need to pursue things in hopes of finding certainty. I think we should, we can simplify that endeavor by simply identifying what our moral quests are, and having questions and conversations about those moral quests.
Yeah, that's great. How old are you, Travis?
35.
Right on.
Yeah. How about you?
Everyone's looking.
How old are you, Scott?
Man, I'm 43. I look younger though, right? Please tell me I look younger.
young. You don't have salt
what's
and
funny?
pepper in your beard as I have.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? We have another very good friend of mine on here named Scott,
Oh, cool.
and he's
right
42. On. So that's
right
funny. Yeah.
Right on. No, good stuff. What are some other? I'm just curious. What are some other topics that you all cover in these kind of intellectual conversations?
It's different for every show that we do on call-in. On our main Discord, we talk about everything, scientific or political. But on my shows, it's specifically philosophy, linguistics, philosophy of mind, everything from metaphysics, ontology, ethics, all that stuff. Psychology is my main passion. So that's always what I'm into. I'm going to have a lot of episodes on psychology coming up. I've already done a lot
That's wonderful.
on epistemology. So
that's really wonderful, Thomas. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, we have a team of broadcasters here that all bring something different to the table, and so long as
they all have their own beats.
Yeah, exactly. So long as they govern based on the Pangburn rules of discourse, then they can all serve their own purposes through their own shows here. So it's a way to give platforms to people that probably otherwise wouldn't have them, or at least have a room big enough to be able to have a great depth of conversation.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful to Travis to provide the opportunity to talk to people like you, man.
Yeah, no, congrats on what you do, and bringing intellectual thought into the public world, because we desperately need it. There's a lot of unintellectual thought.
Well, the big thing for me was trying to bring these big intellectual discussions into the public square, as opposed to somewhat hiding in the universities, right? I think these opportunities to come out and engage with people who are interested in jumping into the dialectic. If this is only at the universities, people can be intimidated by it, and also, not feel as though they will be welcome to share their piece because they don't have any background in academia. So I really want to be, part of my moral quest is to try to bring the bricklayers and the PhDs together for conversations without any kind of preconceived anticipation that the bricklayer has something less value to say than the PhD.
Well, that's really good. Do you ever get any pretentious twats on here?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately,
in my opinion, yes.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
You don't have to mention names, but do you ever get someone on here and like halfway in, or like 5 minutes in, you're like, oh shit, this guy thinks he's better than the bricklayer?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's not so much amongst the professionals that we bring on. Like, they tend to conduct themselves professionally, and if someone calls in with a question that it would be very easy to have a reaction to, this is stupid, and what are you doing? You have an opportunity to talk to me, and it's more I find with kind of young people who are moving their way through academia, getting their degrees. They might come into like the Pangburn server expecting to that they're going to go, full deep dive into, we were talking about neutral monism last night. So we're going to do a deep dive into something very technical, but sometimes it will be like a musician in the room who wants to talk about ideas or the political flavor of the day. and you know, and it won't necessarily be about, you know, diving into the Hegelian possessions that live on today in many young philosophers. So it's, you know, I think it's a good mix. And yeah, one of my dreams and quests was to bring just people together where the arguments matter, not so much who they're coming from, you know.
Well, that's awesome. But yes, and sometimes it does matter who it's coming from.
For sure.
I'd rather have a surgeon operate on my tumor than a conspiracy theorist on the internet.
Yeah, matters of licensing are you know, these are important matters that shouldn't be taken too lightly, and we've seen through this this COVID-19 kind of piecemeal like thrown together reaction to a pandemic that we got caught with our pants down to in some regards in certain areas. And then, you know, some of these areas where we kind of got surprised by a couple things, people kind of started filling in the gaps with their own wild ideas about like how they have become a virologist and a vaccine expert overnight, and you know, this kind of stuff. And you know, but I think fundamentally this is an issue of logic, and how can we sort out issues of logic if there are no dialogues happening in the public, at least those in good faith and in a helpful manner. So, you know, those are the rules that govern the Pangburn dialogue. So, you know, I hope to show as many people as we can that you know, we can agree to some fundamental baseline rules for these battlefields that will bear more fruit than if we're just going on Twitter and calling each other a cockhead or whatever, you know.
I've actually never heard that one before, but
I've heard a lot of great ones. I've heard a lot of great ones on Pangburn philosophy. Trust me, there's been some good ones.
Never heard of that one.
What are you currently working on?
Oh my God!
Are you writing a book or?
Well, thanks so much for asking. I am indeed writing a book that I'm very excited about, and I actually just got the contract for, and I actually haven't announced it to anyone. I haven't even told anyone in the world that I got the contract, or that I'm even working on a new book. So you're the only one in the world that knows that right now,
Thank you.
my publisher. And I think it'll be very relevant to a lot of issues you cover on this. It's very it'll be very much central in the cultural wars. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone to use psychology to help us understand what the hell's going on.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I can say about that. But I'm also creating a new form of coaching. I'm calling self-actualization coaching. I'm really excited. I'm super excited about that. And we're right now we're partnering with BetterUp, which is a top coaching company where we're training all of their coaches on this new form of coaching. And I do see a gap. I saw a gap in the coaching world where there was so much a focus on particular slices of you, like happiness coaching or like high performance coaching, but not like whole person integration coaching. Like, what does it mean to actually be an integrated, harmonious human where all areas of your life are working together and you feel really like you're fully alive? And so I decided to create this new form of coaching, and we're going to start training educators. I want to go into schools too, by the way, and train teachers to be self-actualization coaches with their students. That's a big dream of mine.
Well, if you would ever like to do a live, you know, or a recorded demonstration of this with a plethora of people that you could interact with and talk about this with, we'd be happy to do that here if you're ever needing an audience or people to bounce the ideas.
You can do it with me if you want to. I don't mind.
Thomas is always down for.
I love that. No, you guys have a great openness to experience. It's wonderful. Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to do. So. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I could talk to you about a few more things that I've written down here. I like the open conversation, of course, but like, do you want to tell us anything about Beyond G with Beth Visser?
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know how to pronounce Beth's last name.
I don't either.
I think it must be Visser. I think that's like if we had to do a probability analysis, that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
But the thing with that research analysis is that they try to test Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, and the problem is that whenever you try to test uh, that idea, you have to put it on paper and pencil. Like, how do you test it? And once you start quantifying it, and once you start giving people tests, it's going to tap into this what's called the central executive attention brain network. It's going to tap into general intellect. There's no way around it. You can't swerve around general intelligence. You can't have reasoning and swerve around general intelligence.
Yeah.
I've never quite put it like that, but that's just the fact of the matter. Look, I'm not into political correctness about intelligence. I'm also not into provocation. I'm not into either of those two things. So I just, like I said in this recent episode I just did of the Human Potential Lab series that I started on my podcast, I just wanted to present the facts to people, and then discuss what the implications of those facts are for creating an education system for everyone. With Beth Visser's test, I mean, of course, if you test someone visual spatial intelligence, their vocabulary, the smorgasbord of different things, and it taps into your ability to think on the spot and integrate things into a working memory, the G factor is going to pop up. You can't help it.
Always.
You can't sweep it under the rug. You can't sweep the G factor under the rug.
No,
the G
you
factor
can't.
is so controversial in certain liberal circles. You can't talk about general intelligence because it immediately pops into head people racism and eugenics and
Well,
all
So
that.
they want like hierarchical. I'm sorry, Travis. They want like hierarchical models and stuff.
No. They just no. That's too nuanced. You're being too nuanced there. No. I'm saying certain political. It gets politicized, and when it gets politicized, it's not like they're arguing. Oh, is it?
Yeah. So Sam Harris stepped in it a bit with some of his, his audience when he spoke.
And we talked about that.
Charles
podcast.
Murray, right? And what is your attitude towards this? Do you see any correlation? Like, if we're talking about the intellectual horsepower, the intelligence quotient that is measured by testing today, do you think there is any? I mean, race is such a very surface level thing.
Yeah,
anyway,
very
Cultural thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've studied this topic for 20 years now because I find it a fascinating intellectual topic. And I just really don't like when it gets politicized because then that shuts down open inquiry.
Right.
Something that I am deeply interested in is understanding the obvious race differences in gifted education. If you go into any gifted education program in America, it's like majority white. Actually, now it tends to be majority Asian, which is interesting, but hardly any black people. And so I care deeply about that. I want to know what is going on. What are the reasons why? I mean, there are a lot of people in the field that really care a lot about that. You have to. Why is there such an underrepresentation of certain racial ethnic groups in gifted education, and such an overrepresentation in special education? I was the minority in special education as being white. I would say most of the problem kids were black, right? And why? Why? What kind of system have we created? What kind of system have we created that makes it that way?
Do you have any intuitions at this point as to why, for instance, the first example you gave, why in the in the advanced classes you're seeing less black people?
Well, I think that there are like preconceptions that teachers have about what giftedness looks like.
Yeah, big time.
And I think that that's really a shame. Like the gifted kid is the one who's just does the apple polisher, right? They like get everything right, and we really leave out creative kids, imaginative kids. I'll tell you an interesting statistic we found on our test that there is their average difference between blacks and whites on IQ tests is huge. We're talking like it's like 15 points on average. It's narrowed over the years. So that's true. Well, it might be like 8 points, but there is a difference. But if you give them creativity tests, we have found 0 differences between blacks and whites on creativity tests, on divergent thinking tests, your ability to think outside the box, to think, and also on practical intelligence tests, you don't see any differences. If anything, people with street smarts, that tend to be a certain demographic just because of the kind of society we live in and everything, tend to outshine those who didn't come from what are called stress-adapted environments. Because when you're in a stress-adapted environment, you learn all sorts of tricks and tools and things to survive. That it's a different kind of intelligence. So I mean, I don't know. No one knows the answer, Travis. No one knows the answer. But I think a lot of it does come down to our notions of what it means to be a gifted human, what it means to be intelligent, and we're letting a lot of kids fall between the cracks because they're acting out because of the environment they're in, because of the culture they're in. They're acting out, and that acting out is getting them in detention as opposed to harnessing that acting out in a way that could be very productive. Like, we're just wasting all this talent, I think.
Would you be okay with more psychological training for teachers and also more psychotherapists in schools?
I would love that. I would also love. Well, I would love coaches. I'm actually really into a coaching model of schools. I work with this group called the Future Project, and they created the Office of the Dream Director in the schools, and it's a position, a full-time position where any student can go to the Office of the Dream Director and tell them what project they want to do and what lights them up and what their passion is, and they get them resources and they get them mentors in the community to help them. No questions asked. You don't have to take an IQ test to see whether or not you're capable of ending bullying. I've argued it's stupid. We have the middleman, or I want to be gender neutral, the middle person of IQ.
Oh, you're canceled. It's on Twitter already.
Oh
man,
my God!
done.
No, actually,
Well,
this will be watched years in the future, so don't worry.
you guys are so funny. As long as nothing is taken out of context, then we're good.
No.
Right.
Okay,
No.
everything within context should be okay. but it's just like we need to have the school structure where every student feels as though their inner dreams and desires and self-actualizing intelligence, like I talked about earlier, matters. And it's not just how they score in a standardized test. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the testing is going to be the biggest. The psychometrics of intelligence are going to change a lot in the next few years, I imagine, in how we try to deal with that. I mean, general intelligence G factor can't be ignored, and it seems like all roads lead to G factor, right?
Well, that's an interesting point. Some researchers have argued that is the case, that G is kind of the gravity, like the black hole. It sucks everything else in.
Yeah.
Some people have argued that. Well, the Murray argument is something specific, and that's that society is, whether we like it or not, society is actually stratified not by SES as the most, like SES, of course, is there are SES differences, but it's stratified by cognitive ability when you just get down to it. And I don't completely agree with that hypothesis. So one of these days I'll have a chat with Murray on some venue. Maybe you should organize that one, Pangburn.
We can do it. I'm down.
That would be good.
That would be something.
We might need to do that one publicly in a venue. That would be interesting.
No, I'm saying
wouldn't that be
public.
fun?
I'm saying publicly.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah.
if you had me and I'm considered a world's expert on intelligence, and he is too, to a certain degree. I don't know how much he scientifically has studied intelligence, but
that would be great. I know if we did it in Vancouver here, there would be it would get a lot of attention. There would be because there is that group here in Vancouver of people that would come out and picket such an event. For it even being considered.
Well, it'd probably be a big deal. It'd be a big deal, that conversation. But let me just say why I don't think he's completely right. And I do think that some of the criticism is valid, some of the criticism is not valid. especially in the when it gets politicized. But if we just stick with the facts, I think that we have to recognize that there's a whole nexus of interconnected. You can look at a view as a network of factors that cause people to be lower in social mobility versus those that are higher in social mobility. And he's plucked out IQ, but I don't think you can actually pluck out IQ from the whole network. I think all these positively correlated things, IQ is correlated with criminality, correlated with environmental crime, correlated. But you look at all these
Culture, maybe,
factors.
to state some, be more
Well,
general,
absolutely
right?
culture,
Yeah.
absolutely culture. The amount of books that you read as a child, that are actually the amount of books that are on your bookshelf. They actually researchers have counted the amount of books on a bookshelf for a child, a developing child, age 2, 3. That correlates with later IQ. There are various factors in the environment that intellectual stimulation matters as a kid versus not being intellectually stimulated, and you just simply can't divorce IQ from all those other things. He treats IQ, he essentializes IQ, and I think that's a problem. I view IQ more as the emergent outcome of all of these factors as opposed to the causal force. And I can actually prove that mathematically with proofs. So we have actually we have papers and showing clearly that the sort of the Murray model, the Hertzstein-Murray model, is that G is the causal force of everything else, whereas actually all the research and statistical models show that the better fitting model is when G is the emergence of a
Instead
whole
of the
set
causal agent, instead of the
yeah
causal
yeah
instantiation, it's more
yeah yeah
about the
G is what
epiphenomenality.
emerges. It's like
Yeah,
consciousness.
yeah,
Consciousness emerges.
yeah,
Consciousness is not the
exactly
driving
right. Yeah,
force.
it's an
Yeah.
epiphenomenal emergent thing. I got you. That's a good way you put it with the nexus of that intersectionality. I like that
Well,
too.
can I put an article in your chat window for your
Yeah, for
You
sure.
research?
may.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I wrote an article called IQ in Society, which
Scott, I also
yeah.
tagged you in a tweet that has the
Right on.
link for this if you do want to share with your audience after.
You tweeted me out talking about black and white people IQ
I did.
differences.
I also attached some Justin Trudeau blackface images as well, just to add a little flavor to it.
Now I trusted. I came on the show because I trusted you. So hopefully, that trust is cool. So yeah, you tweeted out. So what did you tweet out? You tweeted out, "We are live with SB Kaufman right now." Do you tweet out something else?
Yeah. That's what I.
Oh, gotcha.
Just to share the
Cool.
link, Yeah.
Cool. Well, I had to hop off soon, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, I've covered everything I wanted to with you, and I've gained a lot of insight from you talking to me
good.
about this.
I hope this
So
was
I appreciate
valuable.
it.
I hope this was valuable for your audience.
No, that's what I
Hell
do
yeah.
this stuff for, man.
Yeah.
This is my passion, is learning from professionals. So I really appreciate you.
That's awesome. Appreciate you too, Thomas. Are you active on Clubhouse at all?
Clubhouse. I don't think so.
It's a shame. There was a time about a year and a half ago, like with the start of the pandemic, when Clubhouse, we had intellectual, like you would have been great for being a part of those conversations. And then I don't know what happened to Clubhouse, though. I think it disappeared.
Well, I mean, you're always welcome back here, and I would love to have you anytime you want to be here. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Send me. Well, I really appreciate that. Send me a link to this conversation. Can you send me a link to it?
Yeah, I will, for sure.
Whatnot. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I need to hop off, but I hope you all have a great night, and I hope this was valuable.
Thank you, man,
Scott
so much.
Barry
Have a good
Kaufman.
one.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Have a good night. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night, bud.
Awesome stuff, Thomas.
Yay!
That was he's a master of conversation.
Yes, he is. He's very good at it.
Yeah.
I like people who are good at conversation. It makes me feel not alone.
Yeah, I'll have to listen back to that because I came a little late.
No, it's all good. Everybody who's here can pipe up now.
Sounds like he's a well-spoken guy, knows what he's talking about. How do you determine IQ tests? Or how do you make IQ tests?
There are many different types of them, and we talked about the how's it measured with intelligence psychometrics, and a lot of them come back to this general intelligence, what's called a G factor.
Okay.
But there are some intelligence models to where like intrapersonal and musical intelligence don't fall within a correlation of general intelligence.
Mm.
We also talked about like, psychology now has expanded our understanding of intelligence beyond general intelligence, and there's many books about that out there, and he's actually working on right now, that we change through our lives in terms of intelligence, and that correlation differs across lifespans. There's also the fact that the G factor hierarchy might not be everything. It might not be fundamental, and that's what he's trying to get to. And I'm going to have shows on intelligence, but I don't think it can be much better than what we've talked about here, because intelligence is so broad. I'm kind of with him in the fact that it's an epiphenomenal feature of all of our cognitive and imaginative and emotional processes going on, instead of a causal feature. Consciousness may be the causal feature. It might be something as general and vague as that, or it might be something more specific. But that's basically what he covered.
So I was thinking about that pretty recently, like a week ago. Like, wonder what the standards are of the IQ tests, and why should we conform to whoever makes them? And like you said, there's the issue of finding out what's fundamental, if it is such a thing. So
Yeah, I would do a deep dive, Perry, into the wiki page for intelligence quotient. It's got all the history. It's got
okay.
it's got all of the. And then if you go and if you want a little more detail, go to the Mensa website, the organization, worldwide organization that's tasked with measuring intelligence quotient in different countries and different people. But they'll speak about their precisely what they think is actually being tested, and some of the confusions that come with when people come to IQ, or when people talk about IQ, they will be like, well, if I don't have a above average IQ, I won't ever do anything above average, and that's just not the case. It's a lot of
Sure.
it will it should be able to measure if you do the 4 or 5 rounds of testing. It should be able to measure the intellectual horsepower of your brain, whatever that means. You don't even have to call it intellect or intelligence, but just kind of the computational ability of your brain. But what someone does with that, I mean, you can just put all of that intelligence quotient into becoming a really good at doing sweet fuck all, and and not doing much at all, and so intelligence quotient is just simply like, okay, people might use it in more fields like in fields like mathematical fields, like chaos math, these like really high, highly abstract mathematical fields. You're gonna find people that generally have very high intelligence quotients that work in these fields. It just works out that way. So there's something to be said about some fields generally are going to require high intelligence quotients versus other fields. That's at least what this current measurement has been shown to map, I guess.
Most of the factors that are found in all of the IQ tests that have been purported and used is that if you're good at one thing on that IQ test, you're good at most all of them. Now, that doesn't show anything other than the fact that people with higher intelligence can abstract and use different conceptions to solve abstractions, problem solving, and things like that. But it doesn't really necessarily determine intellectual horsepower. It's more about the way you think. So I don't know. I don't know. It's up in the air for me. I have no idea if intelligence is this epiphenomenal thing. I don't know yet. I mean, I've just gotten more questions from studying this.
I mean, maybe in 100 years, an IQ test is going to be so much more advanced, and we're going to look like dummies
Right.
with the IQ test that we've been
the
given.
also intellectual quotient tests are used in medicine for diagnosing, or at least giving insights into providing some insights to look towards certain diagnoses.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like
Oh,
you know, it's
interesting.
got practical application as well in
That
medicine.
is
yeah. It does.
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. IQ tests aren't to be ignored, and neither is general intelligence. It's just we're moving past there, and it's too vague. IQ tests are so vague because they can't super specialize them, because then you'd have to specialize it for every individual person. That's why they make them vague, is so that they can see what happens over a case studies over gradients of time.
And
And
who do
yeah.
you, I mean, like, who do you conform to get them from? Because you can get a free one, quote, free IQ test. Obviously, we don't know how, like,
I don't know,
valid
So
those
Travis.
I'm gonna
are. And
post
if,
Mensa International right here.
Mensa's
In the
probably
chat.
got an IQ test. I bet.
Well,
as
Mensa
long as you don't have to pay
is
for
like
it.
the international body of basically trying to collect and catalog high IQs. So yeah, look into Mensa. As far as I'm concerned, I think Mensa is the only organization that does it in Canada, like professionally. But I could be wrong about that.
Yeah. I mean, this really has been my episode on intelligence. I'll probably still have one in the future, but god dang, we covered a lot here. It's very important.
Well,
I didn't get to ask him because we didn't have time. Intelligence versus traits. Excuse me, intelligence versus talents. Talents. And
right.
there seems to be some delineation between the two, or maybe this is just a juxtaposed duality. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, a talent could be the whole book smart, street smart thing, where it's more about intuition and less about analysis. Um, I don't know.
What
Cool,
about
man.
like
Well,
physical like talents in ping pong, but you're not that smart?
Yeah, that's a talent. Yeah, that would be a
Yeah.
talent. Yeah.
and
I mean,
smartness, I
technically,
think,
it's
is a different thing altogether as well. Like smartness is an abstraction from, like, the application of one's intelligence. So, you know, if a guy, so a guy might have a below average IQ, but has created Boston pizza and has made it world renowned, or like a chain of mechanic shops that is like the best run mechanic shops that have ever hit the market, and it's like that's a really smart person, but it doesn't change their intelligence quotient. Their intelligence quotient might be below average, but they're still a smart
Yeah.
person. So I think smartness speaks more to wisdom, and intelligence quotient just speaks more to, whether you call it horsepower or computational ability. Is you know, I think that's what Wolfram calls it, because everything's computation in his world,
That was
or in
my
our
next
world.
question.
You know, I would say that.
Like, is computation and intelligence synonymous to you, Travis?
Yeah, but I mean, like, computation will have so many different applications linguistically, so it would just depend what we're talking about computationally. Like the yeah, like the in intelligence, that's a weird one when it comes crossing with consciousness. Like, what does that mean computationally? It's a very strange thing.
So would you say computation is more so synonymous to consciousness rather than intelligence?
Well, no, I think when we're talking about consciousness, we're just talking about experience.
I,
You know.
when consciousness is this overarching thing that contains all these mental attributes like
Yeah.
intelligence and all that. I would consider consciousness a metaphorical category,
Yeah.
more so, that contains all these things, more so than the causal factor of intelligence or the causal factor of emotions.
Yeah.
It's more of like an encapsulated thing.
But
yeah, but I would
intelligence
say
isn't.
consciousness is basically encapsulating everything within the experience. You know.
Yes, everything within the phenomenal experience is consciousness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
So
that's
you
why
said
I
that-
typically talk about, Perry, when we start talking about conversations about consciousness, I kind of go straight to, okay, well, let's go right to the heart of the issue, which is the hard problem. Go right there, which is, you know, how can there be an experience in a physical world? Where to, like,
extended
you
and
know,
unextended
and
stuff.
where is the material representation of it? You know, that's
Yeah.
a big one. I do have to run though, Thomas. Thank you very much, man. This was another
Bye bye.
brilliant episode.
Love you, man.
You rock. Love you too.
So you said consciousness was a metaphor. in terms of what we just described.
The way that it's categorized is a metaphor,
And
as
I
in
think-
the way that you would like see this sphere. Consciousness is the sphere among an individual, and then intelligence is a factor, attitudes are a factor, which birth beliefs, thoughts, and emotions, and it